It all started with a very simple idea. Tell the stories of how successful middle market CEOs made it to the corner office. I'm Brant Handley, founder and managing director of Resource Options International, or ROI. We're the USA's premier executive search firm focused exclusively on empowering middle market companies to attract, hire, and retain A players while transforming top executives' careers and lives. ROI's Into the Corner office is dedicated to discovering how middle market CEOs advance their career, and we're making these remarkable and sometimes quite unbelievable stories available to you for the very first time. Listen and learn about the challenges they've overcome, the interesting people they've met along the way, and the lessons learned that steered these executives' unique journey into a middle market corner office of their own. I know you enjoy these CEO stories as much as I've enjoyed recording them. So thank you for listening today. And if you like what you've heard, rate us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm looking forward to you joining me on the next great middle market CEO adventure into the corner office. My guest today is CEO Lilian Radke. Lilian grew up in Brazil and came to the United States on a volleyball scholarship to the University of Arkansas. In 2006, her husband started a commercial cleaning company in Worcester, Mass., and she joined that company full-time in 2011. While her husband went off to another business, she became 100% owner and CEO of Unic Pro and became a women-owned business. Since that time, they've grown over 40% average per year and have had employee turnover at 13.5% versus an industry average of 85%. She's also won a Small Business Award for a top woman-owned business and has been awarded 40 under 40. Lilian Radke, welcome into the corner office.
Thank you for having me here, Brett. It's a pleasure.
Wonderful. Yeah, terrific. Well, it's great to have you here and great to be connected through C12. We've spoken a couple of times prior to this podcast, and I'm looking forward to your speaking in Atlanta in May.
Yes, that'll be fun.
We got the agenda the other day, and I'm very, very excited. It'll be my first C12 conference. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Group C12, it is a international group of business owners and CEOs that have a faith-based tradition in their company and in their family and are bringing it to the workplace. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through our podcast. But Lilian, let's start with your early years. I know that you're an immigrant to the U.S., so tell us a little bit about growing up in Brazil and, what your early family life was like.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Brazil in a state called São Paulo, which is also where the international airport is located. So a lot of people are familiar with São Paulo.
Yes.
And my parents got divorced when I was 6 months.
Oh,
so
wow.
It was basically me, my sister, and my mom.
Yeah, cool. So the three of you, and younger sister, older sister?
Older sister. She's 2 years older than me.
Got it. And was your dad a part of your life at all, or you just really pretty much grew up with mom and your sis?
It was more like once a month having lunch, that kind of thing.
Right.
He was around, but not really as a male figure in my life.
Much of an influencer. So tell us a little bit about your mom. What did she do, and what kind of an influence did she have on your early years?
Sure. My mom, when she was 18, she was actually living here in the U.S., and she went to like a seminary in California. And over there, she met a pastor that God gave him a vision to open theology college in Brazil, and he invited her to be his secretary. Since she knew the language, and so that was her actually only and first job up until today. Wow,
that's great.
Yeah.
And so she started with him in the U.S. and then went back to Brazil to help open the school?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And because of that, that's like how actually I learned English, because my mom worked for an American, and we also would host American people in our house and do bit trips with them. So that's how I got to learn English on my early age.
That's fantastic. And obviously also introduced to the Lord as well, I presume.
Correct.
Yeah,
yes.
Cool. So what were some of the early things that you remember about your childhood? Were there other people that, were at the school that kind of had influence on you? And tell us a little bit about those folks.
Sure. Because my mom traveled a lot for her job. So we would stay with babysitters or family members. And so I always learned that, other people, God sent other people in my life that would love me, even though I didn't have the perfect family where mom and dad is at home all the time.
Right.
And I always had family at churches that was sort of like my role model, and the pastors at our churches was also very supportive to my family. So I appreciate having them in my life.
So you really had quite a broader family, and it sounds like a pretty good Christian family in that, right?
Yes.
Most of the folks were there. Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. And did you stay at one school pretty much growing up, going through what we would call elementary, middle school, high school, or was your education a little different given that it was a Christian school?
No, I stayed to the same school for elementary and middle, and then once we went to high school, because I was playing volleyball, and we got a scholarship for the team. So we this good private college high school paid for my studies.
Nice, and that was in Sao Paulo.
Correct.
Yeah, great. So how did you get introduced to volleyball? It sounds like that was a pretty important part of your background, and I know we'll talk about that a little bit when you came to school in the U.S.
Sure. Like my mom, she tried really hard to introduce me to instruments. Like I play piano, guitar. I wasn't too interested in all of that, and I was growing too fast. When I was 14, I was already 5'11".
Oh my gosh! Wow. Yeah.
So a family from church was part of this club, and they told me, like, there's a volleyball team there looking for players. Why don't I bring you there?
Good for you.
And my first day there, the coach looked at me and said, "You're kind of late in here because the girls started when they're 8 or 9. But I can teach a tall girl to play, but I cannot make any short girl to grow."
That's a good way to sum it up. Did he put you in as striker, or what was your position when you started?
Middle here, because you need to be tall to be middle, because you also do a lot of blocking. And
Of course. Awesome. And so you started playing at 11 and pretty much played all the way through college. Do you still play today? Do you pick up games or anything like that, or is volleyball not as big a part of your life now?
No, it is. It's one of my favorite hobbies today. Before kids, I used to play more. Now I do whenever I can. But
awesome.
Here in New England, there's a good organizations where you can play over the weekends or nights. And
that's great.
Very good. Very good.
It's a good sport, right? Particularly keeping healthy and keeping fit with.
Oh, yes. And, you get to know people that are also love to play and on the same level. So I made good connections playing.
Awesome.
It's a good way to mommy to distress.
There you go. There you go. Great. And during your school life, were you a good student in school? Good grades?
Yeah, my mom was so busy trying to raise us and work hard so we can, get a good lifestyle, and I didn't want to give her any extra headache.
Right.
So I was pretty good, and with a volleyball team, you had to keep your grades up too. So that pushes you to be a good student.
Now, growing up in Brazil is a little bit different in the U.S. A lot of our CEOs did entrepreneurial things when they grew up, earned, pocket money, as we call it, or maybe even help pay for some of their education. Did you do any of that? Or were you pursuing any, commercial activities as a kid, or pretty much focused on your schoolwork and volleyball?
Yeah, in Brazil, when you decided to play a sport, it's different than here that you only do for a season. You actually play all year long.
Right. Wow.
Yes.
Cool.
So, for example, over there, school is between like 7 a.m. until noon.
Yeah.
And then we will practice from 1 to 5 or 1 to 6 and have games over the weekend. So I was pretty busy with that.
Yeah.
But as far as the leadership style and learning how to be a leader, my mom, she was the leader for the teenagers in our church.
Okay.
And it was about 450 of us.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah, it's a big church. They have about 7,000 members.
Yeah. Oh, that's huge. So you were involved with that then as well? Did you assist mom with some of the leadership activities she had?
Correct. So being side by side with her, she always put me in charge, and
particularly with the younger ones, right? And, help with that. So were there camps and Sunday schools and types of things? What were kind of some of the activities that were going on through the church?
Correct. So this group of teenagers that she lead was very active in doing like evangelism on the streets, or hospitals or jails. And then during summer vacations, we also did some mission trips to poor parts of the country.
Nice.
Where we help them, feed them, and help them clean their houses, and also bring the gospel.
That's great. Cool. So you were doing that as a teenager.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Cool. And, any jobs at all? I mean, were there part-time jobs even in high school or eventually college? Or again, did you pretty much just focus on your schoolwork and volleyball during those days?
I focus on school and volleyball, but I also do a lot of volunteer. Again, my mom comes influence on that area. A lot of times, her job will bring a healthcare ministry here from United States. So doctors and nurses will come to poor areas in Brazil, and they need interpreters.
Right.
So even my English was intermediate, I was able to always
do that. Yeah.
So
awesome. And Mom's, you said, still involved with that school and the church. Is she still based in Brazil?
Yes, she is. Right now, she's enjoying her life. Right, kids are grown. So I invite her to come, but she has a good life there. She's still at the same job, and just enjoying traveling and enjoying friends.
Nice. And what about your sister? Is she still in the country, or did she immigrate as well?
When I was about a year into my marriage, she came to visit, and then my husband had a friend at home from Missouri.
Right.
And you know how it goes. They fall in love.
So she's married as well. And does she live in Mass, or does she live in Missouri?
She lives in Kansas City now.
In Kansas City.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Married 2 kids, yes.
So let's go to college. We mentioned your bio that you got a volleyball scholarship. Congratulations. My daughter also plays collegiate sports. She's a rower, so I know what kind of an intensive period that is. And you went to was it the University of Arkansas? Is that where you got your scholarship?
Yes.
And how did you secure that? Was it through application? Did they come down and recruit you? Tell us a little bit about that transition.
Sure. I was actually practicing at my high school.
Yeah.
And this coach from the University of Arkansas showed up in one of our practices.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
all the way down there?
Yes.
Huh.
She went to 2 states. So she went to São Paulo and she went to Rio.
Gosh.
And she wanted to recruit 5 players.
Yeah.
And she invited me and 4 other girls. But we had to pass an English test that's called TOEFL.
Right, the TOEFL, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember when I was about 15, my mom wanted me to do like an international trip here and spend like a year doing high school in the United States. So, but my coach said, "Don't go now. Wait until
college." Yeah.
And then I always joke with him like, "What do you mean wait and do college in the United States? That's kind of impossible, and it's so far." But it did happen. My coach incentivized me not to go when I was in high school, and this coach showed up in there. But I was the only one that passed the English test. The other
really?
Wow. Unfortunately.
Wow. Congratulations. Well, it was probably obviously due to the work you did for the Lord, right, in the church.
Correct.
And having that exposure early on. Good.
Yes.
Well, that's terrific. Were there other schools that you took a look at, or was it kind of a single source decision as it relates to coming to the University of Arkansas?
It was a single source because she showed us that we live in apartments, not in dorms. And it was truly like full scholarship. Even airplane tickets to go back home during summer, they paid. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And then did you play all 4 years?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of getting tired in living in Arkansas.
Right.
Because being from São Paulo is sort of like being from like a New
Big
York
city. Exactly. Right.
And over the weekends, all we got to do is to go to Walmart, and there was not a lot going on.
Right. So you got your degree. How did you decide what to study there, and what did you study?
I decided to go for business because talking to my counselor, it would give me like a broad. If I can work in business and sports. I can work in business and in a medical facility.
Right.
And because my mom was into business, so I was like, well, I will try that. And I think I like it, but eventually I fall in love with it. And here I am.
That's great. Terrific. So what was the first job that you took out of college? Did you go back to Brazil right away? Did you stay in Arkansas, move to Mass? I think you met your husband somewhere along the way, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. So in my last year, I met my husband, and we were dating back and forth. So he was in Massachusetts, and I was in Arkansas.
Right.
And
how did you meet?
That's a God story, but
let's hear it.
Okay, so he was helping a church in Hawaii. It was a Brazilian church in Hawaii.
He's Brazilian, correct?
He's Brazilian too.
But he had immigrated to the U.S. or had come here earlier in his life than you? Okay.
Yes, he came here when he was about 13 years old with his family.
With his family. Right, got it. Okay.
And he was in Hawaii helping this pastor run the church, and he felt that he wanted to go to a Bible college, and he looked at Central Bible College in Missouri. And in one of the requirements for the college is to get a referral letter, which my mom's boss went to that college.
Ah, okay. I'm seeing the connection now.
That's the connection. So his dad calls my mom's boss building, and then asked for the referral letter, and my mom happened to be the secretary, was in charge.
Right.
Like, you have a son going to Missouri, I have a daughter in Arkansas, maybe we should connect them.
So she was a matchmaker, huh?
Yeah.
Good old mom.
And the only thing we had in common was that because he was Brazilian, I was Brazilian.
That was it, yeah. Oh my gosh.
We started talking at the MSN back on those days.
Right, sure. And you're about the same age, or we're studying about the same time?
Yeah, when we got, he's 4 years older than me. So. Right,
got it.
But he ended up not going to the college and went back to his home in Massachusetts. So I went to summer vacation in Brazil. Right. And he also went there. So we met in Brazil for the first time. You met
for the first time. So you'd MS'd obviously before that and then met down there. That's awesome. Yeah. Cool. Was it love at first sight?
For him, yes. For me,
it took a little while. That's the same with my wife and I. Yeah, she goes, I was interested in you and for other things at the time we first met.
What I fell in love was more like he's passionate about the Bible and about God, and I always wanted that in a man, to be faithful to God first.
Right. Yeah. Cool. So what was that first job that you took after graduating from the University of Arkansas?
Yeah, so then I moved. So when we were engaged, he asked me, do I move to Arkansas or you move to Massachusetts?
That wasn't a hard question to answer, right?
Exactly. But I don't know if there's any Arkansas people that are going to listen to this, so don't be offended.
It's a choice. It's a choice. There's people that obviously love that state. I've actually never been. I've traveled to most states in the U.S., but I say that's one that I have not yet visited, and I'm sure they're very nice places. So is he living in the Boston area or Worcester, right? Isn't that where you're based now?
We're about 15 minutes from Boston.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So did you start with his company right away, or did you found something? Or what was that first job?
No, he was working for a cable company, sort of like as a salesperson, and then I came to work on their office.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Got it. Great. And did you kind of advance through leadership positions there, or was it more kind of just a, job to cover the bills at that time?
Yeah, it was just to cover the bill because we want to get married in Brazil.
Got it.
So we were not enjoying our boss. So we thought, okay, let's work until our marriage date. Then we quit.
Yep.
And then we go get married. So we stayed in Brazil for about a month in honeymoon.
Got it. Great.
And then because we didn't have any bills to pay here and no jobs too. But when we came back, then we both went and got our job, our real job, after we got married in Brazil.
Now, did you come back and work for the same company, or is that when you started Unic Pro? Tell me a little bit about what happened next.
I went back and I found a job in a staffing agency.
Okay.
And he found a job at Citizens Bank.
All right. Got it.
And I worked at the staffing agency for a while, and then I moved to another job where that's where I found me, and I fell in love with business. And this other job I was working in office as an account manager, and then the boss gave me opportunity to sales, and then eventually to sales manager.
Nice. So do you remember the first time you started managing people? Was it in the sales manager job?
Correct.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
And when I went to sales manager, I was 25.
Ah, pretty young. Yeah.
Pretty young, and I had people that were 40 under me.
Right. Sure.
So that was the first challenge. How do I get people that are under me to trust me, even though I'm much younger than them?
So how'd you do that?
I did that really helping them accomplish the job, not just telling them what to do.
Right.
So I ended up getting we used to do granite countertops for wholesale. For like Lowe's,
that was the
Home
product.
Depot.
That was
the product.
Okay. Yeah.
So I just went to every single class and that I could take on that industry, and became very knowledgeable on that. And I had a bunch of sales guys under me, and because I worked in the office, I kind of helped them facilitate their job.
Right.
So brought them on my side first.
Yeah. Good. And what were some of the early lessons that you learned in those early management experiences?
Was really to trust people, to do their work. I felt that my other previous job on the staffing agency didn't trust us at all, and that made me feel very uncomfortable. Sometimes in the middle of the day, he would stop, make everybody leave their office so they can check our computers and see what we're doing. It was a very toxic environment.
Right.
So I always say that if I'm managing someone, I would never do that to them.
Sometimes some of the best lessons we learned were from some of the worst bosses, right?
Yeah.
And some of the behaviors that were exampled. Were there other things that you observed as an early manager and others that you said, I will never do that, and change things when you now running your own company or had other leadership responsibilities?
That I would not do.
Yeah, that you would not do. Right.
Besides not trusting them, it would be to disrespect them.
Yeah.
Right? Even though you have somebody under you that did something wrong, or even went against your core values, or did something bad with a customer, there's multiple ways you can call somebody attention, or even letting the person go.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what the circumstances. The respect should be the number one. Even though the person on the other side is not being as respectful, I always try to bring the EQ to the room, take a big breath, and not lose my sight with anybody.
Yeah, awesome. And going back to your bio, I think it was about 2006, right, that your husband got into this commercial cleaning company with Unic Pro, right? And did you join straight away at that time?
No. So 2006, he found a partner that was doing commercial cleaning in the Boston area.
Okay.
And he felt that Worcester, which is Central Mass, could be a good potential to grow the business.
For expansion.
For expansion.
Right.
So my husband had his Citizens Bank job during the day with suit and tie, and then at night he'll go and clean. Yeah.
Wow.
And he even has stories where the same person will go to the bank and see him there, and then go to work out and see him cleaning. It's like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Oh God! Was the bank one of the customers? Did he do?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. How would he respond to that?
Well, this is my business and I'm trying to grow. And when you start up, you got to do everything, right? You wear multiple hats.
Immigrants get the job done, right?
Yes.
Whatever that job is.
Correct.
That's awesome. And so then when did you join?
So in 2009, he and the partner split because they realized they had different values.
Okay.
And then the partner used to do sales and business development, and my husband was more operations.
Sure.
And when they split, the partner said, so who's going to do sales and business development? Because you're probably not going to be able to do that. And then my husband's answer was like, my wife.
There you go.
And the partner said, well, this job is for like tough men. I don't think your wife will succeed in that position. And the problem is that I heard that conversation. So I took that as a challenge.
There you go. Cool.
And we didn't have any kids, so we felt it was a good opportunity for me to leave my job, even though it was a stable and good, pay position.
Right.
To start, we only had 4 accounts when I joined in 2010.
Huh. Great. So you came in kind of a sales and leadership role, and then it sounds like your husband actually left the business, right? Didn't he go and do something with his brother?
Correct. Because as we keep growing, we were able to hire our first supervisor, and supervisor was actually in charge of training and doing inspections at night with the cleaners. And my husband's brother was just coming back from Afghanistan as, working for U.S. Army and not once you're there, you get paid, but once you're back, you kind of not getting paid and kind of lost what to do in life.
Sure.
He tried suicidal like 2 or 3 times, and my husband and him decided to do business together.
Right.
His brother had a lot of knowledge in the car sales industry, and my husband had a knowledge in how to run a business. So they bought a small car dealership.
Okay. Got it.
Yep.
So he worked together with him. So did he exit Unic Pro, or was he still involved? And is that when you kind of took over as CEO?
Yeah, he left because that job with his brother was really like a full-time position. And yes, we put the company in my name, and I became 100% owner.
So you're woman-owned business as well,
woman-owned business
which helps.
Now, yeah.
That's great. And when did that take place?
That was in 2011, the end of 2011.
Okay. So you've been there about 10 years and have been CEO and full owner for about the last 7 or 8.
Correct.
Excellent.
And about 3 years ago, they sold the car dealership, and then my husband came back.
Oh, is he back now? Now he works for you. My wife and I have gone through a couple of iterations with that as well. In fact, we met, we were talking about love at first sight. She was looking at me as a consultant and a business partner in a new business of hers. And I had some other interests. And of course, we fell in love over time. And that business, unfortunately, didn't make it through the Great Recession. And then when I've started this business, now she works for me. So we've got to flip that around, but that's good fun. And so what is... Well, exactly. What's his role now with the business?
We keep going back and forth about a title for him.
Okay.
His door says founder. His business card said general manager, but I got a new one for him, and I think it's the perfect. I call him a CVO.
Okay.
Chief Visionary Officer.
I like that.
He truly has, he's more like a visionary.
He's the forward thinking,
correct.
forward
he
looking.
Can see how our business will look like 5-10 years from now.
Awesome.
And I'm more about let's get this going. Let's, get this better and all that. So he works out pretty good, actually. He said that I was his best hire. And
and now he's yours.
Yes.
And how many employees now? What's the approximate size of your business?
We have 166 employees as of today, between part-times and full-times.
Right. All W-2, or you have a combination of 1099s?
No, all W-2. Yeah,
okay,
we have this model about having our employees so we can train them, we can manage them. And,
yeah. And what's the footprint? Are you still kind of the greater Worcester area, or do you go even further down?
No, now we have all around Massachusetts, so
nice.
From east to west coast, and we also serve in New Hampshire and Rhode Island.
Yes, congratulations. And how much has it grown, from the time that you came in and as CEO in 2011 till today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had 4 accounts in 2010, and now we have 144.
Wow! Congratulations, explosive.
Yeah,
and go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, we diverse a little bit. So we have government facilities, we have schools, medical. So we
That's
do different types of facilities. So that helped us with the growth.
And what's your goal? Are you looking to expand beyond, Massachusetts, throughout all of New England, national, global, go back to Brazil? If you look at the longer term, what does your chief visionary officer say?
So being a woman-owned, I started to go through a lot of woman-owned conferences, and I got my certifications as woman-owned. And there's a lot of potential, even for you to do national accounts. And so I met this woman in a conference, and she has an office in New York and an office in Miami, and she has about 10,000 employees doing the same thing that we do.
Wow.
And all because of those nationals RFPs, right?
Yeah. Right.
I go to this conference, and I will stop by a booth, and they say, yes, we have RFP for cleaning coming up. You want to take the east part of the country or the west?
Wow.
So right now, we are looking to open an office close to Orlando, Florida.
Congratulations.
So we can actually expand and connect, Florida and Massachusetts, and start serving the east part of the country. So that's
fantastic.
Like a 5-year goal plan.
Wow, great. And we talked a little bit about C12 earlier on. As you know, I'm a member as well. I've been involved in the founding member of our C12 group in Connecticut. I understand you're in the Massachusetts group. How long have you been involved in C12, and what kind of an impact has that had on your business?
Oh, huge. I always say my life before C12 and my life after.
Wow.
Before C12, I was part of a group that had a bunch of CEOs too giving advices of growth. But they were CEOs that kept telling me, oh, you have to work from 7 to 10, make it grow, and all about the numbers. But I had 2 small kids, and
along you needed balance. Yeah,
I need a balance, and so my values kind of didn't match. And once I found C12, I had people telling me, work until God's telling you to do, if it's 5, and then God will honor you. So I do work until 5 with my table full of things to do, but God has been honoring me because I don't want to be one of those parents that says, oh, I wish I had spent more time with my kids. I wish I had done
never get that back. Yeah. Good for you. And when did you join?
I joined January 2015.
Okay, gosh. So this is going on in your 4th year. Yeah, fantastic.
Yes.
Great.
How long have you been a member?
Yeah, we started the chapter in October of 17. So I guess I'm getting up on my 2nd full year will be this fall. And so we've been through, 3 calendars, 17, 18, and now into 19. And, the group's still growing. We're at about 10 or 11. And I think our chairman's thinking about starting another group soon. But it's been fantastic for me, too. And, I work in executive recruiting. And one of the benefits I wasn't expecting was to get C12 candidates or clients, because so many of them, are looking like you to grow, and, they like to be able to work with a faith-based recruiter because they'll know that, we do the screening as it relates to the type of people that not only fit their company culture, but also the belief system. And, you know that from hiring people, and as you've grown, to have people that are, aligned. It's easy to find people that can work hard, right?
Correct.
But being able to find people that are really aligned with your values is a very important part of the growth, because you want to grow the right way. Right.
Correct. Yeah.
So talk us a little bit about that, and specifically to company culture. You obviously came into the business after your, husband had started things, but, I'm sure your company culture has evolved as your company's grown. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So when I joined C12, my husband and I had in our hearts sort of our values and what we believe, but we never exposed to our employees and really talked about it. So my C12 group helped me to put together our, mission statement, our core values. And now it's not that we only hire Christian employees, nothing like that. But on the onboarding process, we share with them our values and that we are a Christian company. And if they agree with all of that, then they're welcome to join our company. Yeah. And I would say that when I am a hiring cleaner, their eyes just go, their mind, they're just blown away, because they always share how in previous jobs they felt they're just a bunch of mop heads. And here I am, we're telling them how much we care about them, the importance of their job. Yes.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Well, it's great. I'm glad to hear you do that. And, with our C12 clients, and about 20% of my business now is C12, we'll actually put, Christian-owned business or faith-based business. And, it kind of acts as a nice selector, right? People that see that and read that, they know where the integrity and the value and the ethics stand. And I'm glad to hear that you put that up front, because, there will be some people that'll say, oh, that's not for me. And that's just fine. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be a good employee somewhere else, but it's great to hear that that's welcomed, right? Because I'm sure, unfortunately, so many folks who work in, blue collar type of jobs that you hire for don't get treated with that type of respect. Yes. So I bet you have pretty high retention.
Yes, and that's actually one of the reasons, this past year, we keep getting awards, and I've been able to speak in some events, and that's one of my number one questions, in our industry, turnover is so normal. It's basically 85% the norm. Wow. And our turnover is 13%.
Wow, that's incredible. That's fantastic. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
What else is unique about your company culture at Unic Pro?
I would say after I read a book called The Servant.
Yeah.
They talks about how in the past there is this pyramid where CEO is on the top, and then leadership, operation, and then the frontliners all the way in the bottom.
Yep.
And everybody's worrying about serving the people on the top. Like, what is my manager thinking about me? What's my CEO thinking about me? And that was the main concern.
Right.
But that book explains how changing the pyramid upside down.
Turn it upside down. Yeah, the inverted pyramid. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So after I read the book, I kind of felt that way, but now it's put into words.
Right.
I literally brought the pyramid here in our office, and I turned the pyramid upside down.
Good for
and
you.
I told my leadership, my job is to serve you leaders and managers, making sure you have the right tools and resources. And I want you guys to do the same for the people under you. And eventually our customers are going to be served. So we turn it down. It's not like how can you serve me, but it's different. How can I serve you?
Yeah. You know, that's fantastic. I worked for large corporations for most of my corporate career. I was with Procter & Gamble and Disney. Great companies, a lot of good training, but it really was that way. You serve the hierarchy, right? You know, and you were always positioning up, down. And I remember the very first time I worked for a middle market company as a operational executive before I started recruiting. And that was exactly what he told me. He said, look, Brand, I believe in an upside down pyramid. I'm here to serve you. I want, my doors open. And it was so refreshing. And I loved working at that company, and they've ended up becoming a client. And in fact, I was just in touch with the CEO of that company on another opportunity not too long ago. And I always remember that discussion and how much of an impression that made on me. I'm glad to hear you're doing that.
Yeah, it is. And also I feel good about my job, knowing I'm impacting people's life. I remember after I left my first C12 conference, that's when like my mind really opened up how my business can actually be our ministry.
Sure.
Because my husband's father is a senior pastor, and he always dreamed that one day we'll take over the church.
Right.
But we felt that wasn't our call. So when we looked back in 2015, we only had like a little less than 100 employees. And we left that conference and we prayed, say, God, how can we love our employees?
Right.
Not just know them, but like love them and see how we can make a difference in their life. Because we know they're working for us. It's not a coincidence. There is a purpose. So how we can impact their life. So the last 2 years, we started implementing like a one-on-one ministry and really finding it out specific needs. So I'll give you an example. I have a bunch of employees that never thought that they can buy a house because of their income or because they don't have 20% saved, all that.
Right.
So we brought a loan officer and a realtor here, and they explained, no, you can buy a house even with 0% down, especially if it's your first home, and gave them all the tools and resources, what to do. And
good for you.
Yeah, so small things. And then I have many different examples like that where we came and we met a specific need of an employee. And sometimes it's not even about money. It's not giving them raises or anything.
No, usually isn't. It's just showing that you care, right? And providing the respect. A lot of C12 members have done chaplain ministry. Is that something that you've done as well at Unic Pro?
Correct. We implemented not too long ago because think about our dynamics. We have employees everywhere.
Gosh. Absolutely.
We have 7-8 different languages
blue collar.
spoke. And they work multiple hours. I have clients that we provide them service morning, afternoon, overnight. So having a chaplaincy meet and working 24/7. But we found a company that managed to do that. We use about 7 or 8 chaplains. They do phone calls, and if it's needed, they do site visits. So
has that been well received? Yeah, by the rank and file.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you introduce them, and people kind of get skeptical about it.
A little skeptical at first, right.
But then, like their son goes to hospital and they don't know what to do, and then the chaplain shows up, and then they understand why we're doing that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
God bless you. That's fantastic. Well, Lilian, you've been very, very, very generous with your time. I appreciate it. I've got a couple more questions, and then I'll let you go. What do you look for when you're making bets on the people you invest in and hire?
Number one, their culture, and I like to ask them a question like, when you are under pressure, give me an example when you were under pressure and what was your reaction to it? Yeah. Because we do have moments of high pressure in here.
Sure.
And
what kind of answer do you look for when you ask that question?
The person that didn't lose any control. I think nowadays EQ is what brings you higher and grow.
Yeah.
But more than IQ.
Right, of course. Yeah. Fantastic.
And,
what else? Anything else you look for?
Yeah. People that are humble, that are always looking to learn. One of our core values is trustworthy, meaning that we do what's right even when people are not watching. Because think about it, we are in this building, nobody's watching us. Not every building has camera, and then I had employees saying, "Oh, I can tell that I didn't clean the office because I couldn't open the door." And I said, "Is this true? It's not true." So we wanted people that we can really trust and are humble to assume when a mistake was made. Because I'm humble. I try to be as humble as possible when I make a mistake, and I'm the first one to ask for forgiveness.
Of course.
So I look the same when we want to hire.
Fantastic. Last question. What career and life advice would you give to someone who, has their eyes on their own corner office, maybe like you, going into a company or founding a company, or, going into a company founded by their husband and taking over as CEO, or, climbing the corporate value? What do you think is important for people that are maybe a decade or so younger than you that are looking for, running or leading a company?
Sure. I remember when I was struggling because I was a sales, I was HR, I was the bookkeeping, and all that. And some people, they struggle to pass that. That's why there's so many companies that never pass $1 million, right, in sales.
That's right.
So a very good exercise that I did, and I've been talking and sharing this with so many people. You do like a cross, and then on the left you do what are you great at it. On the right you do what you're good at it. And then at the bottom what are you average and we're less than average. So anything that you write under that line where so for example, I'm not good about bookkeeping and putting numbers in and out. And so what I did, I hire people that were good about the things that I wasn't good at it. So hire people that don't be afraid of hiring, delegating. Because if I didn't do that in 2011, 2012, I would never be able to get where we are today.
That's right. Fantastic. Great. Well, Lilian Radke, CEO of Unic Pro, thank you so much for sharing your journey into the corner office.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Into the Corner Office with Brant Handley. We hope you enjoyed hearing our guest CEO story as much as we did. If you want to hear more CEOs reveal their journey into the corner office, please subscribe via iTunes and tell your friends and colleagues. For more information about Brant, Resource Options International, and the mighty middle market, visit www.goforroi.com. We look forward to having you join us for our next episode.